an election year. And unfortunately for Americans, the president's electioneering trumped good policy. And so when it came time to approve the pipeline after years of studying it, he flew up the red flag and said, well, I think we need to move this over to the State Department, let Hillary Clinton take a look at it, and determine the ramifications on our national security. What? This is Canada. I mean, national security? We've got an open border with Canada. I mean, they're our friend and our ally. Anyone with a straight face who suggests that a pipeline between Canada and the United States will somehow undermine our national security, it's directly the opposite. It strengthens our national security because more oil we buy from Canada is less oil we have to buy from the Middle East and from those rogue nations we don't like. I'd rather buy it from Canada than from Venezuela.
Amen.
Number one. Number two, it's not just about oil, it's also about jobs. Jobs that will be created immediately to build the pipeline, over 20,000 American construction jobs in industry that's had double-digit unemployment for the better part of 2 years, over 20% unemployment in the construction industry. This will put people to work. It's why blue-collar union Democrats are upset with the president, and rightfully so. But also, it's about energy jobs in the United States. We're getting a huge amount of energy now out of North Dakota in a place called the Bakken through a process called fracking. And they're creating an enormous amount of oil. They believe there's a larger oil deposit in the Bakken than in all of Saudi Arabia, which is absolutely stunning. The problem is, in North Dakota, the only way you can get the oil out is by trucking. And because of that, they're having to take a $20 discount off the price of a barrel of oil when it's pumped out of North Dakota because we don't have the infrastructure in place. Well, why is that important? Because if we had a pipeline and a rail system in place from North Dakota, like we do in Texas and in Louisiana and other places where we're generating oil, they could get more for their oil in North Dakota. Well, why is that relevant? Because the higher the price that they can get paid, the less they have to pay on transportation, the more oil is justified to be generated in North Dakota. In other words, oil that would otherwise be left in the ground at a higher price point will be extracted, which means more people are put to work. So this is about, energy security, producing more energy here in North America. It's about putting jobs, people to work in the construction industry, in the energy industry, and it's also about lowering the price at the pump. The president spent the last 6 months beating up on Congress to continue a payroll tax extension. Why? Because he thought it would be a travesty to have Americans have to pay an additional $80 a month out of their paychecks. Well, guess what? When gas goes to $4 or $5 a gallon, they're paying a heck of a lot more than $80 a month in energy costs because of it. So if the president is so concerned about the middle class, if the president is so concerned about how much people are paying out of their pocket in a time of recession and a downturn in our economy, then why doesn't he actually invoke a true energy strategy, putting people to work, allowing for the production of oil and natural gas here in the United States and in North America? That's what the Keystone Pipeline would allow us to do. It's also why House Republicans have been very adamant about selling these additional leases for offshore leasing and allowing for natural gas exploration on public lands. The fact of the matter is, no one's parking their automobiles, nobody's shutting off the furnace at their home. Even the most green members of Congress, even the Sierra Club and the elite Hollywood are still flying around in their private jets. So anyone who suggests that we're not going to need carbon energy, be it coal in Illinois, natural gas, traditional crude oil, for the next 50 years in America has their head in the sand. And it's time for people to wake up and realize we need a comprehensive, all-of-the-above energy plan. And President Obama, with 3 years at the helm, 2 years with unadulterated, having whatever he wanted with complete control of the House and the Senate, has failed the American people in creating that energy plan.
Well,
yes?
until the president gets his head out of the sand, and I don't look for that to happen at all in the near or even the distant future, we're going to continue to have serious problems. You must feel like Don Quixote and the windmills out there, Aaron, batting at this one and that one. What in the world? Do you have one particular overriding issue that disturbs you as our congressman? How in the world would I ask a question like that when there are so many important issues out there?
Well, first I would say this. It's like the Hippocratic Oath for physicians. First, do no harm. The president continues to throw up his hands and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe the economy hasn't recovered, just can't figure out why people aren't hiring. He's called the American people lazy. He said that, perhaps 9% unemployment is the new norm. It's a very defeatist, anti-American exceptionalism mentality. And if you want your patient to recover, first do no harm. So the first thing, overriding what I want done, is stop stabbing the patient if you want him to live. And every new regulation, every new burdensome rule that's coming out of the Obama administration is another jab in the heart of America's economy. And I could give you a Christmas list a mile long of new regulation that's come out that's shutting down a coal plant in Meredosia, Illinois, because of a new EPA air quality rule. 50 of my constituents being put out of work immediately. MSHA, Mine Safety Hazard Administration, new fines and rules that are crippling the coal mine in Elkhart near you. I mean, I could go around the state where this isn't about creating. I mean, yes, do I want new jobs and new innovation? Yeah, but if we're going to get a net growth in our economy, we can't be shutting down businesses and shutting down factories and shutting down energy production in our country at a time of economic malaise and recession. And so first, you asked the question, what do I think needs to be done? Just stop hurting the job creators that will get us out of this recession. Second, let's make America competitive. Let's make America the number one place to hire people. Let's make America the number one place to invest. Illinois is a case point example of what happens when you do the opposite. We've had 10 years of very liberal Democratic ideology fully implemented. And what has it meant? It meant in the last 5 years we've lost 800,000 people that have moved out of Illinois. Businesses are choosing not to invest in Illinois. Why? Our tax rate and our regulation, workman's comp, are putting us at a competitive disadvantage.
Right.
If you can see that in a state, if you can see that at a local level like in Illinois, the same thing is true at the federal level. We have the second highest tax rate in the nation, in the world. We have an inability to create our energy domestically. We have regulations that are killing manufacturers from wanting to come here. Look at what he did with Boeing, with the National Labor Relations Board, telling Boeing they can't build a $200 million facility in North Carolina simply because they were cozying up to the unions. This is a free country in America, and they're trying to tell a big company, a multinational company like Boeing, where they can and can't build a plant. Those are people scratching their heads now saying, you know what, maybe the United States isn't the place we want to build our factory. Maybe the United States isn't the favored place to invest. And that is a problem. So second to not causing harm, I would say doing good would be to create an environment where we're the favored place to invest. That starts with tax reform, lowering the rates, broadening the base, making sure everybody pays for something when you live in America. Look, I don't care if you only make $40,000 or $50,000 a year as a household. You should pay something for the beauty of living in the freest country in the world, for having a national security, for driving on roads, for your kids going to public education. And the fact that 50% of households, not just Americans, 50% of households pay no income tax to the federal government, that's a problem.
Yeah,
and it becomes a lot easier to ask for more handouts and more gimmies from the government if you're not kicking anything in. So tax reform is key. We need to stop subsidizing certain companies. You know, the president talks about, no more bailouts, no more handouts, no more special rules. That was a quote from his State of the Union this year. At the same time, he defends bailing out General Motors, picking the unions over grandma who had preferred stock, who was left out in the cold. He defends his investment in Solyndra, $500 million of taxpayer dollars wasted on a company that even the Bush administration had written a memo saying this isn't a feasible project. Special rules. He passed a health care bill for all, except for over 1,000 people in Nancy Pelosi's congressional district who've gotten waivers. I mean, the hypocrisy is mind-numbing, and we, as Republicans, need to get that message out, because I think when people start to wake up to the reality, not the rhetoric the president's spewing, but the reality of this administration, they're going to be ready for change come next November.
Now, you mentioned Nancy Pelosi. As I recall, she was the sweet thing that said that we had to pass the president's health care plan in order to see what was in it, which to me kind of seemed like putting the cart before the horse.
Well, look, unfortunately for
when he talks about Nancy.
Unfortunately for her, the health care bill's height of popularity was right before they passed the bill. And it wasn't popular when they passed the bill. And unfortunately for her, as more people have read the bill, as more people have found what's in the bill, more and more Americans are becoming more and more upset, and the bill is becoming more and more unfavorable. Nearly 60% of Americans support a full repeal of Obamacare, the entire thing. 60% of Americans want it fully repealed. They're finding out on religious freedom issues that Obamacare says, you know what, phooey on you. We don't care what your religious beliefs are. We're the law of the land. We can dictate to you to force you to violate your religious freedoms. When individuals who get their health care from their company are starting to figure out that big companies are starting to say, you know what, we can pay the $2,000 penalty per employee and then drop you into the federal exchange, the federal government's health care plan.
Yeah.
Individuals are starting to scratch their heads and say, wait a minute, I thought if I had my health care and I liked it, I could keep it. That was the president that kept saying that over and over. It was the greatest lie of this health care debate, was the president kept saying, if you like your health care, you're going to be able to keep it. The fact of the matter is, you're not going to be able to keep it. If Obamacare gets fully implemented, we will all be on a single-payer system one day, and we know what Medicaid does in the state of Illinois. We got $9 billion in back-paid bills. We got physicians that aren't willing to take any more Medicaid patients.
Right.
The government is not the solution on health care. It's the problem.
And all that notwithstanding, one of the talking heads on the news this morning said that he was banking on a Democratic majority in the Congress after the next election. Do you vote with that or against that? What's your feeling?
Whether there's going to be a Democrat majority?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think that I think that America saw what total Democrat control will mean for America if Democrats control the House, Senate, and the President. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that it wasn't too long ago, in fact, it was just over a year, that America spoke pretty loudly, that they did not like the Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Obama vision for America. They sent 86 new members of Congress to the House last November because of that. They replaced a quarter of the United States Congress in 1 year. So I think the president is whistling Dixie to suggest that he thinks that Americans now have changed their mind, that Americans now believe they want to go back to the Pelosi-Reid-Obama agenda for America. I actually think we have an excellent shot of winning the White House. I think we have an excellent shot of winning the majority in the United States Senate and maintaining control of the House. But we got to get out our message about a freer America, about a path to prosperity, about the choice of two Americas, one where it's a nanny state, where they give you things, they tell you how to live your life, what kind of car to drive, what kind of light bulb to use, what kind of health care to buy, what kind of energy to use, how much you can use, how much you can make, what is a reasonable profit, if you listen to what President Obama had, his vision for America, it's pretty scary if you believe in freedom.
He thinks he's the benevolent dictator sometimes.
Look, who would have ever thought they'd tell you what kind of toilet you can use? What kind of shower head you can use?
Or how often you use them.
You know, Democrats always say, hey, get out of the bedroom. How about get out of the bathroom? You know, let me pick my own light bulb, my own toilet, my own shower head, for God's sakes. This is America.
Well, one of the things that concerns everybody, and including Congressman Aaron Schock, is the entitlements, particularly with reference to the immigration problem. Now, we're all here because of immigration, thank goodness for that. But what we're doing with the immigration problem is just an abortion. It's obscene the amount of money that we're expending daily on illegal immigrants and the entitlements which they seem to think that they are entitled to.
Well, here's the problem. just as in economic policy, the more you incentivize something, the more you get. In other words, if you incentivize work, entrepreneurialism, investment through lower taxes, you get more of it. If you increase taxes and paying on certain things, if you increase taxes on cigarettes, for example, people buy less of them. It's a fact.
Not so much.
Same thing with immigration. If you create incentives for people to break the law, if you create incentives for people to come here illegally, you get more of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if we give free health care, which we do in the in Illinois, we're one of the few states that are considered a sanctuary state.
Haven.
You can come to Illinois as an illegal immigrant, walk into any primary care physician and sign up for Medicaid and have to show no proof of citizenship. Now, I think that's a pretty easy reform. That's what Tom Cross and the House Republicans in Illinois have been trying to pass to Medicaid, to say, listen, we don't think if you're here illegally that you should be on the taxpayer's dime here in Illinois. And I don't think it's too much to ask that you show proof of citizenship when you walk into the emergency room or a primary care physician to get health care. Same thing with college. The state of Illinois just passed subsidies, in-state tuition costs for illegal immigrants. Now, scratch your head a minute. If you're an Iowan and you're a law-abiding citizen and you pay an inordinate amount of money to the federal government, you pay an inordinate amount of money to your state government, and you want to go to the University of Illinois, guess what? You get stocked with out-of-state tuition.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an illegal immigrant in Iowa and you want to go to the U of I, you can come over to the U of I and come for in-state tuition. How does that make sense? And how is that rewarding good behavior? No, it's rewarding bad behavior. And so it goes to the point where the more you incentivize bad behavior, the more you incentivize people who come here illegally, the more you're going to get of it. And in a state like Illinois that continues to harbor people who've chosen to break the law, we're going to get a disproportionate number of those who come to America to choose to settle in a state like Illinois, and it's to our detriment.
You mentioned the taxpayer's dime. When will I be getting my thank you note from the administration for having paid for all of the campaign trips that are going on?
Well, I don't know what to get more upset about, Barack Obama's constant campaigning or Michelle Obama's constant vacationing.
Yeah, amen for that.
Oh,
I just wish
makes
that
me
I had
jealous.
as nice of a plane as Bo the dog.
Those are entitlements. Those are entitlements, aren't
Well,
they?
guys, listen, I have to take off. I'm headed to a Ways and Means hearing with my girlfriend Kathleen Sebelius from the Health and Human Services Department. So I will be sure to give her your best and tell her that the good folks of Lincoln, Illinois, sure are interested in this new health care law that she's trying to implement.
Yes, Congressman Schock, we appreciate very much your time. We know it's time crunch for you. You've been courteous in sharing your time with us this morning, and your constituents here in Central Illinois, I appreciate that very much. We wish you a good day, sir.
Thanks so much, guys. Good to be with you.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Bye-bye. Well, Mrs. Busby, there you have it, a short synopsis of the multitude of problems out there that need to get served and solved somehow.
I'm not really...
Not going to happen in my lifetime.
Well, see, that's why
maybe
I'm not
even yours.
particularly worried about me.
No.
Because I'm in the checkout generation. But I have kids, grandkids, great-grandkids. You have too, Bill. Jim, you're not that far down the pike yet.
Well, he's just a kid.
He's just a boy. But we have people that we think about, and I wonder what in the world is going to be going on. And now, another government thing that torques me beyond belief is this business of the people in the legislature here getting to hand out free passes to state colleges, universities here in Illinois. For what?
Well, now, there must be somebody out there who would disagree with you. Now, 648-5510, we'd be glad to go on the stump with you if you...
There's always somebody who disagrees with me. I'm just used to it.
I find that happen every day at my house. But, are you ready to think in terms of taking a break, Mr. Ash, and then we'll regroup and come back for some comments about our conversation with Aaron Schock and what's going on in our country?